$47 billion. That's what American homeowners handed over to heating companies last winter alone. And here's what those companies hoped you'd never calculate. Up to 60% of that money didn't heat your home. It heated the wall behind your radiator. It heated the bricks. It heated the cold night air on the other side of the drywall. And the solution, the fix that could have slashed your bill by more than half, has been sitting in plain sight since 1983. It costs less than a fast food meal. It takes 11 minutes to install. And not a single energy provider, not one utility company newsletter, not one manufacturer-sponsored home improvement segment ever breathed a word about it. You've been paying a phantom tax for 4 decades. The $5 roll of reflective foil that could have ended it never made it into a single brochure, never appeared in a single ad, never got mentioned in a single customer service call. Because the math was simple. Every BTU you wasted was a BTU they sold twice. This isn't speculation. This is thermodynamics. And today, you're going to learn exactly how the oldest law of physics was turned into the most profitable silence in residential energy history if you're the kind of person who wants to know what else has been kept off the official menu. They calculate, but never circulate. Hit subscribe now. This channel exists to decode the exposed. One share puts this in front of someone still paying the phantom tax. One like tells the algorithm that buried knowledge deserves daylight. Right now, as you read this, there's a war happening inside your walls. On one side, the radiator you're paying to run. On the other, the freezing exterior pressing against brick, plaster, and drywall. And here's what no energy audit ever showed you in large print. The radiator is losing. Badly, not because it's broken, not because it's old, because it was installed according to a logic that prioritized aesthetics over physics. Radiators sit against exterior walls. They always have. It looks clean. It keeps them out of the way. And it guarantees that the most expensive heat in your home fires directly into the coldest surface in the room. This isn't a design flaw anyone hid. It's just a design flaw no one had any financial reason to fix. Here's the thermodynamics, stripped down. A radiator doesn't just push hot air upward. That's convection, and it accounts for maybe 30% of the heat output. The rest, the majority, is radiant energy, infrared waves, the same invisible heat you feel standing near a bonfire, even when the wind is blowing the smoke away from you. Radiant heat travels in straight lines. It doesn't rise. It doesn't swirl. It moves outward from the hot surface until it hits something solid, and then that solid thing absorbs it. When the solid thing is your couch, your floor, your body, you get warm. When the solid thing is the wall directly behind the radiator, the wall gets warm. And when that wall is an exterior wall with freezing air on the other side, the heat conducts straight through. Brick has a thermal conductivity of roughly 0.6 to 1.0 watts per meter. Concrete is worse. Even wood-framed walls with fiberglass batts lose radiant energy to the interior surface of the drywall before insulation ever gets a vote. The Building Research Establishment, the UK's foremost construction science body, ran the numbers decades ago. In homes with uninsulated exterior walls, rear radiator losses measured between 25 and 45% of total radiator output. The U.S. Department of Energy's Weatherization Assistance Program recorded similar ranges in its field assessments of pre-1980 housing stock, and those figures only capture the direct radiant loss. They don't account for the convective feedback loop, the way a cold wall chills the air beside it, creating a downward draft that cycles room air against the coldest surface over and over, bleeding heat with every pass. Add it together, the radiant loss, the convective cycle, the thermal bridging through studs and mortar joints. In the worst cases, and worst describes millions of American homes. Built before modern insulation standards, you're watching 60% of your purchased heat vanish into structure. Not into comfort, into bricks, into the frozen night, into the quarterly profit statements of the company that sold you the gas. This is measurable. It has been measurable since before Reagan left office, and the solution fits in your pocket. The fix is almost insultingly simple. Reflective foil, the same aluminized material used in emergency blankets, spacecraft insulation, and commercial HVAC ductwork, placed against the wall behind a radiator. That's it. No tools beyond scissors and tape. No permits. No contractor markup. A roll costs between $4 and $8 at any hardware store, and installation takes less time than brewing coffee. Here's what happens when you put it in place. Radiant energy, instead of passing into the wall and conducting through to the exterior, hits the foil surface and bounces back. Aluminum has an emissivity rating of approximately 0.03 to 0.05, meaning it reflects between 95 and 97% of infrared radiation. The heat that was disappearing into brickwork now returns to the room. The radiator's output, for the first time, actually reaches the space you're paying to warm. The performance data exists. It has existed for decades. A 1992 study conducted at Oxford Brookes University measured surface temperature increases of 5 to 7 degrees Celsius on room-facing radiator surfaces after reflective panels were installed. The UK's Energy Saving Trust, a government-backed advisory body, has published guidance acknowledging potential savings of up to £20 per year per radiator in British heating costs, figures that translate proportionally higher in American climates with longer, colder winters and more expensive fuel inputs. Field reports from the DOE's weatherization assessments in states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and upstate New York recorded efficiency gains ranging from 15 to 40% per radiator, depending on wall construction and baseline insulation, 40%, from a material that costs less than a sandwich. So here's where the math turns uncomfortable. The average American home with hydronic heating runs 4 to 8 radiators. If each one is bleeding 30% of its output into exterior walls and a $5 panel recovers even half that loss, the annual savings compound into hundreds of dollars. Over a decade, Over the 40 years, this solution has been technically documented. Tens of thousands per household. Exposed, that's the only word for it. And yet, open any utility company's customer education page. Scroll through the energy-saving tips. You'll find advice about programmable thermostats, caulking windows, upgrading to high-efficiency boilers. You'll find recommendations that require you to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars, often on equipment those same companies sell or service. What you won't find, what has never appeared in any mass market, utility communication, is a single mention of reflective radiator panels. It isn't coordinated in some smoke-filled room. It doesn't have to be. When your business model depends on consumption, you don't promote conservation. You especially don't promote conservation that costs $5, works immediately, and requires no professional installation. You let the physics stay buried in academic journals and weatherization reports that no homeowner will ever read. You let the heat keep bleeding. You let the meters keep spinning, and you cash the checks every winter. Decade after decade, while the solution sits on a shelf in aisle 7, unlabeled, unexplained, and unsold.